I grew up with a romantic love for the forest and the wilderness. And of course, in the beginning, there was a lot of like Rambo type of romance around it. You know, one man alone in the woods surviving, against all odds, fighting bear and cougar with knife and teeth. You know, and of course, I wanted, as a young boy, to do all that. And that's kind of how it started. Just trying to learn how to become a man. I started going into the woods, and thank goddess, at 13, I began taking solo journeys into the woods, and it began a love affair that I've never lost. I have matured a lot in my relationship. And no longer do I enter the woods as if I'm Rambo and I'm there to conquer. No, not at all. She's a divine maiden, a goddess, a mother high above me, and a maiden more virgin than me, and a sister who's more fun than me. So when I come to the woods now, it's and a brother and a father, all those things. It's not. I like to skew things into the feminine world these days, because I just feel like it's time to skew things into the feminine consciousness. We've been doing the patriarchy for a long, long time, and it's obviously creating a lot of problems. I'm gonna check this. Yeah, okay. It's obviously creating a lot of problems. It's this overbalanced patriarchal worldview, ideas that we share, and I've done a lot of work to see past those limitations of masculinity, and I've embraced how wonderful masculinity is within the context of divine feminine goodness. It's like masculinity within just the context of masculinity. Ugh. But masculinity, it's okay too. It's good too. There's beautiful aspects of it. I don't want to denigrate that as well. But it's just been so it's like we've all been force-fed that ultra masculinity, when the masculinity that shows up to protect the mother and the sisters and the children, like that masculinity is emotional, it's powerful, it's beautiful. And it's not there to dominate. It's there to establish a righteous boundary. Okay, so yes, the forest. So I feel like the forest is all going to be part of our future. In society, the way things are going, they're pretty much, if you want to live and love, you're going to have to probably live in the forest, because, I hope it's not going to be that dark. And I just want to tell people, because I've spent a lot of time in the forest. I lived in the forest for a year. Okay, well, not quite, because I did go on a walkabout for 2 months. So I came back in September, and then I moved out of the forest in June. Okay, so fall, winter, and spring. Summer was the easy part, and I was still there. I was just playing around and running around and stuff. But yeah, and so I spent 10 months roughly, 9.5 months in the woods. In the Oregon coastal mountains. It snowed, predominantly it rained, and I built a shelter, and I learned. Okay, when I got there, I was so wiped out that I really didn't have any energy. Like, all I could do is just kind of like, I got all my stuff up into the woods, and it was like this huge battle had taken place, and I had no strength. And it was September, like I said, and usually September in the coastal mountains is wet, and so I should have had a really sense of urgency. And of course I had the sense of urgency, but I had no energy. And I just kept hearing, hey, trust. Just trust. Trust this process. Heal. Just rest. Lay here and smoke pot, if that's what all you have the energy to do. You got to go get water. The birds aren't going to bring that for you. But pretty much, like nature just kind of like closed in over me. And I rested for a month, all September. I couldn't do anything. I just couldn't barely do anything. I was just wiped out, 43 years of this battle, this Armageddon battle, my whole life, just getting sucked into these conflicts. I had no understanding of like, what is all this bullshit coming at me? I just didn't know, and I do now. And a big part of that was living in the woods, that whole solar cycle, so to speak. totally outside of the boxes, okay? Because even though I mean, really, it was like 15 months where I just totally outside the boxes, unless I was just visiting a friend for a brief period of time or something like that. Okay, so getting back to this point that's really important is that the mother goddess energy of the earth is real, and it's like it's conscious, it's aware, and when we come back to that place where we're ready to build a relationship with the earth, it's there. And just being in her forests especially, but I mean, probably other places have their own magic, but I'm familiar with forests. Being in forests, these trees, like they the aura they create actually cleans out the astral realm, our own aura. The longer we're here, it purges us, just being here. And you just feel better and better and better every day, especially if you're drinking water that's coming up right out of the ground, like just live water, the way it was made to be, before it got adulterated by the adults who think that they need to poison our waters for our own good. That kind of mentality is what we just got to walk away from. Like, there's an insane mentality in our society right now where we trust authorities, even though we have evidence in every venue that they're in gross breach of trust. There's no reason for us to trust them. So, like, we're drinking water, we're 70% water, and we're drinking water, often most of us in this land of America, that comes through a municipal system. And so, yeah, living out in the woods, being with the trees, drinking water from the land, that right there will solve the vast majority of your problems. The vast majority of your problems have nothing to do with your own brain chemistry. I mean, they do because of the environment you're in, but your brain chemistry is only so good. Your DNA is only so strong. If you're going to be in that fucking environment all the time, the fluorescent lights, the Wi-Fi, whatever else is going on in the boxes, that whole environment of the boxes. If that's your predominant life, you're in a lot of trouble. But all you got to do is get out. And I'm not even saying you have to abandon it all like I did as drastically. I'm just saying you need to get out in it. Like, excuse me, an hour or two a day, or, 5 days a week type stuff. Like, if you can't afford to spend an hour a day in a good natural park setting or somewhere, close to home, but somewhere it's reasonably natural and healthy environment, then that's a problem, isn't it? Like, right there, you should be looking at your life saying, what the fuck? I can't afford to go spend an hour in the woods. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's the kind of stuff people need to start seeing. Like, that's not how that's not what this experience is all about. That's not what we came here to do, to live like freaking slaves, working in boxes, living in boxes, driving in boxes. Come on. Okay, so if you're living out in the woods, and that's what I'm telling you, is it's not Rambo. It's not like, oh, you need to have all these knives and guns and shit like that. That's fucking bullshit. That'll only get you in trouble out here, probably more than anything. I mean, unless you really understand what you're doing with that stuff, but most people don't. So, fair warning. Yeah, so like, you live out here in the woods, embrace you, and there's a lot to learn. I don't want to tell people you just wander off into the woods and you're going to be fine. It's a give and take, and you got to learn as you go. If you're just in la la land, you're going to walk off a cliff. And if you're lucky like me, you'll have angels that save you. And then you can, like, tell other people, don't walk off cliffs, because some people need to hear that again, I guess. But not all of us can always just count on that. So we do need to use our minds and our will and our spirit and do good. I'm just letting you guys know it's not that hard. The leap is not that big. The leap going into the boxes was a much bigger leap. It took thousands of years. We can go back to the forest in 1 or 2 generations. By 3 generations, we could be back just living a fucking awesome life. Totally forgotten about the traumas of yesteryears. And that's the message I just need to bring to the people, because some of us may be forced into the woods. I mean, right now, the way society's going, there are some callous people making decisions. Banksters basically are making decisions. We've allowed banks to control our country, and we've all let them steal our birth certificates and lodge them in the Treasury Department and take loans against us. All kinds of shenanigans. And I'm just telling you that, like, the forest is waiting. All right, not me, unless but like the forest, and I'm here too. But like, yeah, and the forest. It's like you have the right to have your own relationship with the forest. Call yourself forest too if you want. It's like I go by forest, but it's not like the only person in the universe that can, right? Let the trees adopt you. They want to. If you're willing to live in a good way out here, the trees want you. They're missing you. They miss us. The forests are empty of people, and so let's be conscious, but let's also recognize the goodness of the earth. And if sometimes where I come from, for Christians, it's really hard to hear this, like, because I've kind of come out of the box of Christianity in so many ways, even though Yeshua is my brother and I love him greatly and I believe in his imminent arrival. I think, he's already here. He's just kind of like checking things out. He's just not being flashy, Wow. Shoot. All right. Well, I guess we'll end it on the Yeshua note. I would personally recommend anybody that's struggling, call out to Yeshua in a good way. He was a living man. He lived on earth. He blew a giant hole through the whole perception of death and limitation and slavery that was going on planet Earth 2,000 years ago. Heavy. It was heavy, and it was unchecked. And it's clear to me from my own experience and from all the reports I've read that he did something that changed everything. And we are here to do that very thing too, in our own way. So for me, coming to the forest was a big chunk of my spiritual path. And I was speaking to the Christians, and what I wanted to say about it was, remember in Genesis that God said it was good. Remember, God never said anything was bad. Then when Adam and Eve took the bite of the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, then all of a sudden we're like, oh, shit's bad. Remember, God said it was good. Okay. Like, so when you get out here in nature, that's where you're at. You're in the good. This is good, right? If you're in a natural template, it's good. So God said it's good, and you need to remember that. Don't let them tell you it ain't. It's good, and it never will be anything but good, just as everything that God created is good. So the most important thing for us to do is get away from the things that God did not create. Like corporations, shit like that. Churches, Not to say to get away from the fellowship of good people, but the whole religions that has gone on obviously has not served humanity, has not served the people well. So let's get away from those things that are just man-made artifices that are really trapping us into limitations that are not necessary. Yeshua never did anything to limit anybody, from anything I've read or from any encounter I've had with him. Okay, no limitations. He sees the Most High in each one of us. We need to see the Most High in each one of us, and it starts with seeing the Most High in ourselves. And when I say the Most High, I also mean the most down, the most real, the most legit. Like, we need to see that in ourselves. That's our salvation. Why? It's like people got this idea that Jesus, this guy named Jesus, is just like waiting at this gate to vet them based on what? Come on, man. He did that work. It's on us. We got to take up our cross. Follow the work. Do the work. Greater things than things I've done. Well, that's what he said. So this whole weak mentality of waiting for Jesus to come save us with the rapture, get over it. Come on, the rapture's right now. Look at me, I'm in heaven with the trees. Fuck, I'm way up here, you guys. Go climb a fucking mountain, dude. Like, get that shit out. Like, you are the Christ. The Christ is in you. The Christ is in me. The Sophia is in her, which is the Christ. It's just the feminine divine Christ.